All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to No Final Bell. Of course, we have AEW Impact, or AEW and Impact Bound for Glory. But to start off wise, we are going to be talking about AEW Dynamite, Rampage, and Battle of the Belts before we get into Bound for Glory. And as weird as it is, I'm actually going to be able to engage into Bound for Glory because we were both there in Albany. Great night of action. Got to meet Mickey James.
Yeah.
Also got to see Chelsea Green, Deanna Perrazzo, and also Steve Macklin, even though I didn't actually get any autographs or pictures and
I
everything like
actually
that.
met Steve Macklin. He did not. He only met Mickey. But it was still a very fun night.
But
we will get into it.
Yes, so of course we'll get there, but as we get on to the start of AEW talk, MJF faces off against Wheeler Yuta. And as weird as it is, and it's very highly anticipated first match of Dynamite, MJF, who is technically a number one contender for the AEW World Championship, as well as Adam Hangman Page, actually beats Wheeler Yuta, which sucks, but I guess it makes sense in the favor that MJF does have the poker chip and he can cash it in at any time. And who's to say he couldn't do it in Cincinnati, Ohio on next Tuesday? But yeah, he beats Wheeler Yuta, and then they try to shake hands, and then Lee Moriarty beats him down, and Rio looks down with the brass knuckles, and then MJF leaves. Now, the whole thing about this exchange with them shaking hands is it looked like it was actually going to happen. Like almost MJF looked like he was ready to join forces with Wheeler Yuta in a way or something like that. But I wonder how far that would have really gone because he is still the soul of the earth and will find any way to. And then Lee Moriarty does, beat him down, and then MJF's like, I didn't tell you to do that. I didn't tell you at all to do that.
Well, it would be interesting too because, who's to say Wheeler doesn't try to recruit MJF to the Blackpool Combat Club if they were to shake hands?
I know, and I think it's all right and everything like that, but of course, it could happen. Who knows?
Either way, it's but say MJF was to join, how long would he even be there before he ultimately turns on everybody?
Who knows? Maybe, hopefully, for a good amount of time. But go on to the next bit of news. Darby Allin and Jay Lethal face off against each other. It's kind of sad because Jay Lethal was ranked super high in the singles division, and then getting a loss here to Darby Allin just derails every kind of momentum that Jay Lethal has. And I'm going to still keep on saying this. When is Jay Lethal going to get his TNT Championship opportunity? Because they seem to keep on passing up Jay Lethal to face up against Wardlow.
I feel like they dropped that whole thing now, which is just sad if that's true.
It's kind of sad that they're doing more with the All-Atlantic Championship right now than the TNT Championship. Yeah. And why? You can utilize both of those titles.
Yeah. But they just choose not to.
Ultimately, yes, Darby Allin does beat Jay Lethal. And then, again, the extending of the hand. But this time,
so yeah, Darby,
and it says
Darby
and he tells them, you don't need them. You don't need these guys by your side. You can just do this on your own. And they actually shake hands, and it makes Sanjay Dutt and Satnam Singh questioning, what is Jay Lethal doing? Is he actually going to lead them to the dust and do his own thing? I would be all for it. I think Jay Lethal is a hell of a talent. He doesn't need Satnam Singh and Sanjay Dutt.
Well, better yet, I think it's more so Darby kind of questioning Jay Lethal's honor.
Yeah.
Because, Jay Lethal in a sense, like in recent years, has shown that he's been like the face of Ring of Honor,
Right.
and especially like he spent a good portion of his career there, like even longer than I think his entire run in TNA/Impact.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Right.
in a sense, like Jay Lethal is the face of Ring of Honor. So, you know, Darby is pretty much being like, "Hey, what happened to your honor? Like, there's no honor in aligning yourself with Sanjay and Satnam."
Right. There's no honor at all, honestly. And I was going to say this now. I don't think there's a whole lot of honor in what Jay Lethal does in general. But, yeah. So we're going to get on to the next match of the night as Wardlow and Brian Cage face off for the TNT Championship. Now, I will tell you what. For a man that really hasn't been shown much on AEW programming or anything like that, Brian Cage definitely brought it to Wardlow, and there was multiple different opportunities and different times in the match. Go get him. And then where you really did think that Brian Cage was probably actually going to dethrone Wardlow. Wardlow just brought every kind of move out of his arsenal against Brian Cage, and Brian Cage did the same thing against Wardlow.
Yeah.
This was actually a pretty decently great match between two big men that you don't think would be pulling out those kind of moves against each other whatsoever.
Well, I mean, the thing about Brian Cage, and the amazing thing I should say with Brian Cage, is that, like, especially if you've seen any of his work in Lucha Underground, you know that that's not out of the ordinary with Brian Cage. But if you're a relatively new, like, I guess I should say, like a new fan, if you will, of Brian Cage, or like you haven't really seen his work, then yeah, this is like completely something new, and like, holy crap, I didn't think I would ever see this out of Brian Cage. But it's like, or even better yet, if you're coming from Impact, if you're coming from Brian Cage in Impact Wrestling, then you know that this is like what you can expect out of him.
Right. So and after the match, after Wardlow does retain the TNT Championship, they get beaten down by the Embassy, and then Samoa Joe comes out to help out Wardlow. Seems to me that Wardlow and the Embassy just are not seeing, those two sides are not seeing eye to eye. We'll talk more about that because there's more to come after Battle of the Belts 4. But heading on to the next match, we just keep on rolling through these matches, man. I tell you, I'm liking it. You got Toni Storm, Athena, and Willow Nightingale facing off against Jamie Hayter, Serena Deeb, and Penelope Ford. And it was a decent, 6-women tag team match there. You thought both sides could have very well have won this match, but ultimately in the end it is Toni Storm, Athena, and Willow Nightingale, which, by the way, Willow Nightingale actually got the victory for their side. Yeah. Congratulations to her. She's finally doing well and picking up some wins, creating steam in the women's division. I'm honestly... I'm liking what they're doing with the women's division as of late. I think this is like really good for it. That the way that they're building it, it's about time.
She's racking up some wins, but we'll get into.
I think that they're actually. You don't see them prominently on AEW television as of late, but the way that they're, broadcasting every week, it's like, wow, these matches are actually really good and actually getting people invested into what's going on. So, yes, they get the win, and then Saraya gets physical against Britt Baker and beat each other down, and both trios beat each other down. Is Saraya ready to get back in action as she says it's her house?
Spoiler alert, yes she is. She has been cleared by Doc Sampson. She will be in the ring very soon.
Congratulations to her. She's had a very long road to get back to being 100% fully cleared. Yeah. I'm grateful that she's looking fantastic. Yes, I get it. The whole, she looks very different than she did. But you know what? if she's in ring shape and she looks great, why not throw her back in the ring? I know it's been a
Exactly.
long time since she's last wrestled a match, but you know what? Why not take the training wheels off of her and let her have a match, even if it's against somebody on dark elevation, before you go or throw her onto the main show or anything like that. So
I don't think they're gonna do that though because she's too much of a household name.
yeah,
She's pretty much an established star at this point. It wouldn't make a lot of sense to like put her on dark elevation because you know it would feel like well, not only that, people would just crap all over it because they would be like, why are you putting Soraya on dark elevation? This makes no sense. She's so
I get it, but they said the same thing about Tony Storm being on dark elevation too. So
I feel like the thing about it is like people just find any and all reasons to get mad at AEW, which I personally don't understand.
right. So Marty, it's National Scissoring Day.
National Scissoring Day.
Uh, the Acclaim are out for National Scissoring Day and say they are the best homegrown talent in all of AEW.
I would happily
That's
agree.
very true.
Yeah.
Um, and made
They literally worked their way
official
up from the
Scissor Me
bottom.
Daddy Ass the best-selling shirt of 2022. Congratulations to Acclaim for doing that.
Yes, number one, number one best-selling shirt on Shop AEW. Number one best-selling shirt, I'm sure, on Pro Wrestling Tees as
Right.
well.
Uh,
They're partnered.
So they brought home gold, and AEW now means Acclaimed every Wednesday, which damn near we have seen them
Which is
every
now
Wednesday.
a shirt, by the way, too.
Is it really?
With a scissor for the A.
This is a cause for celebration with scissoring. And Anthony Bowens is the Sultan of Scissor. I don't know what the hell he meant by that, but hey, do you?
I mean, I look at it this way: if John Morrison was the Shaman of Sexy, then let Anthony Bowens be the Sultan of Scissoring.
and he says that scissoring is a handshake and a sign of a true team.
Yes.
People want to see an actual team, not one thrown together, take a shot at Swerve and Our Glory or any thrown tag team. I kind of like that. That was a nice little shot there.
So basically, you had a problem with the Broserweight. You had a problem with, a lot of teams. But hey.
Says that everyone loves the Acclaimed and says it's not Swerve's house. And then Daddy Ass says, no, it's Daddy Ass's house. And he will present the Acclaim with a golden scissor. And then Anthony Bowens runs around with it. And then Billy says,
Hey,
no running around with scissors in your hand. Wants the fans to scissor with them. Max Caster says his dad achieved a Super Bowl with the Den Redskins. Says that it was his dad's proudest moment in his life. And wants to unite everyone with a scissoring. And then Swerve comes out to ruin it, as always. Says it's the most idiotic thing ever. Says if it wasn't for Billy, that he and Keith Lee would still be champs. Still going on about that. Next week they will face off against each other in Toronto. And says if you
Daddy Ass and Swerve.
Yes. And says if you put those fingers up, you won't use it ever again. Smart Mark Sterling say the Acclaim need him, wants them to seal the deal tonight, and wants to scissor with them. And then the Acclaim beat him down, and does get scissored, not the way that he would have wanted. He gets scissored onto the legs itself.
Yes, his groin, his poor groin.
And now Billy Gunn accepts the challenge as Daddy Ass Billy Gunn will face off against Swerve Strickland in Toronto, Ontario, Canada for AEW Dynamite. Thoughts on that one? I guess it makes sense. I mean, you want to build more into the Acclaimed and Swerve and Our Glory, but
well, not only that, I look at it this way: we finally get the much anticipated Swerve versus Billy Gunn match that he's always wanted to have because Swerve has always, it builds to the story of like, oh, Swerve has always wanted to get his hands on Daddy Ass.
Right.
And then now here we go. He's getting his match against Billy Gunn.
So this one was like a very interesting match or moment, but I don't know if I'm going to be talking too much
It
about
was
the
a
matches
squash.
about the match itself. Hangman Adam Page beats Roosh. I mean, poor
Oh,
Roosh.
that match, yeah.
And then Private Party come down and surround him, and then Moxley comes out and gets face to face with Hangman Page, and Moxley says he's been waiting for 3 years for this to face him in his hometown, and says there will be one last man standing here in AEW, and says he will show up and break his face and choke him until he turns blue. Jesus, Moxley. And says he's in his way of being the face of the company, and says when the bell rings, he doesn't have any goddamn respect for anything. Looks like Hangman Adam Page wants to fight him there, and says he's a sweet kid, and says his mouth will get him in trouble. Says this is your last warning before they face off. Is this getting personal before them? And will MJF get involved? Is a real 2 questions. First question, I guess, is this really getting personal between them? Should Hangman and Page really should have spoke right then and there? Or
I don't
should
know
he
so
have...
much if it's getting personal. I just think that, Hangman knows how to just cut a really good promo. And, like, yeah, the whole, like, thing with CM Punk and apparently, like, going off script but at the same time, it's like, it's interesting because I never looked at it as like a way, Hangman's going up. I thought it was just a good way to fire back at Punk and be like, oh yeah, here's to you, Punk. But it pretty much was, and it was going off script. And then Punk took offense to the whole thing. We won't.
Well, I mean, as far as like
into that, but
these
yeah.
2 getting personal, I don't know what it whole meant about like when he wanted to face him right then and there. It's like, this is your last warning. You better shut your mouth. And, you have 13 more days type of thing. It's kind of interesting, what was truly going on with that. But Mox doesn't give a shit.
No.
He really doesn't. And Hangman and Page better shut his mouth before Moxley shuts it for him.
Oh, yeah. Now, to answer your other question, will MJF get involved? I think so.
Oh, yeah.
I think that, if anything...
What better way than having MJF being a soul of the earth and going out in Cincinnati, Ohio, putting the poker chip...
triple threat match.
Putting the poker chip on the line and winning the AEW World Championship. Now, that would be insane. I think ultimately Moxley will beat Hangman and Page, but then MJF will put the poker chip on the line and become the World Heavyweight Champion. It'd be something. I mean, it could be possible, but who knows?
I mean, it would be even crazier, though, if you turned it into a triple threat. But at the same time, I don't know really, like, what Tony Khan has planned in terms of, like, how he's booking MJF, like, cash in with the poker chip, because I don't know if he truly wants MJF to be a world champion or not. Like, I think it's a sin if you don't give MJF a world championship, because, like, he's literally one of AEW's hottest stars, regardless of whether he's a heel or a face. He's one of AEW's hottest stars. You gotta strap that rocket to him. You gotta give him a main event title run. And what better way to have that happen than for him to cash in that poker chip, potentially make it a triple threat in Cincinnati, in Mox's hometown, and just wins the title right then and there.
Right, exactly.
What better way?
So going on to the next match, Luchasaurus.
Now this was a squash.
Squashes Fuego del Sol, and then beats him down, and then Jungle Boy comes out and beats him down with a chair and says he was his best friend. After everything you chose him instead of me. and that broke my heart. But now he will break everything on his body one by one, piece by piece, until he breaks them. And he will be ready to face him whenever. Christian Cage says, hey, here's a thought. How about you two? You want a time? You want a place? Well, we're going to do next week in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Something better than this shithole of a place of Washington, D.C. So, thoughts? What do you think will truly happen in this match between Jungle Boy, Jack Perry, and Luchasaurus?
Well, before we get there, though, let's not forget that Christian Cage even told Jungle Boy he shouldn't have showed up. So...
yeah, he's going to try to make his life a living hell still, but...
if you ask me, I think Jungle Boy is probably going to take a beating and then somehow, like, rise to the occasion, overcome the odds, and beat Luchasaurus.
Yeah, I think Jungle Boy will probably get the win against Luchasaurus in Toronto, but who knows?
I don't know how you even go about that, because, like, you want Luchasaurus to look like a massive monster heel, but at the same time, you don't really want Jungle Boy to lose all of his momentum.
Right.
That he currently has. So how do you book that? Do you make it go to like a time limit draw? Do you make it like, what do you do? If I'm Tony Khan, what would I do? Me personally, I think I would have it go to a time limit draw to protect both men.
Right.
But
you probably could. I mean,
well, that's the thing too. We haven't even had a time limit draw in AEW in quite a while. So
I would say you would give Jungle Boy Jack Perry the win over Luchasaurus. Nothing against Luchasaurus, but I think you got more build out of Jungle Boy going further as a singles competitor than you do Luchasaurus. So I would probably give the win to Jungle Boy here.
That's fine, honestly, because...
I mean, I'm just saying.
Well, I'm okay with either situation, honestly, because, you know, if you give the win to Luchasaurus, it solidifies him as, like I said, a monster heel.
I mean, but yeah.
If you give the win to Jungle Boy, then it further carries his momentum.
Right.
As a singles guy. Oh. Which, you know...
We shall see.
Either way, I feel like it's going to further like progress the story that they're telling with Christian Cage and Jungle Boy.
Right.
So
moving forward into the main event of Dynamite, Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara face off against Bryan Danielson and Daniel Garcia. This was a pretty good back and forth contest, a great tag team match between these two men. I really did think that Bryan Danielson and Daniel Garcia were going to get the victory here, but ultimately it did not happen as Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara, the Latex Gods, beat Bryan Danielson and Daniel Garcia. And that is it for Dynamite. As we get into Rampage, the Blackpool Combat Club face off against the Andrade family office in a pretty good match there. I mean, it's Private Party and Roosh? I think Roosh and Private Party against Blackpool Combat Club's Wheeler Yuta, John Moxley, and Claudio Castagnoli. I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
So, yeah. So Blackpool Combat Club do beat the Andrade family office. I don't know if I'm going to really talk too much about that itself. But going on to the next match of Rampage is Tony Nese and Josh Woods facing off against the Varsity Blondes. As the no surprise, Tony Nese and Josh Woods do beat them.
Well, you said to no surprise. I was actually kind of surprised that they gave the win to Nese.
I mean, I hate to say it, that at this point, Varsity Blondes are basically just like a team that they throw together against a team that they're trying to, like, build up.
Well, my problem with that is, like, you tried to build up the Varsity Blondes as, like, a solid tag team in AEW, and it's like...
They didn't didn't do anything. They didn't do much
I
at all.
mean, but what they were doing like decently well. But yeah, like uh now that Julia Hart is no longer part of the Varsity Blondes, it's like that tag team just kind of lost all of its momentum.
Yeah.
And Brian Pillman Jr. has even said that himself. Like, ever since we lost Julia Hart, we've just been lost in the shuffle. Like, we don't know what we're doing with our characters, and we don't know like what we're doing with.
And now they don't know what they're really truly doing, as we'll go about, with Tony Nese and Josh Woods beating the Varsity Blondes. And then smart Mark Sterling comes out and says he trademarks the varsity athletes because there's nothing varsity about the Blondes. These guys are varsity athletes, and that's what he trademarks. And then says they won't ever be able to use the name varsity ever again because of it. So who really knows what's going to go on with the Blondes? Maybe somehow they
You
will.
can't call them the Hollywood Blondes, anyways, because first of all, Griff Garrison is not from Hollywood, and second of all, like that was a name that his father, Brian Pillman's father, had with Steve Austin.
I know it's going to make you wonder what they're going to be called going forward, if they even are going to be still doing something.
I was going to say if they don't get repackaged, which
honestly I don't think would be a bad idea.
It wouldn't be a bad idea, but I just don't see AEW going that route with.
Right. So who knows? But then the Acclaim come out and looked like they are ready to face off against Tony Nese and Josh Woods. Well, as weird as it is, they still have a few others that are in there, but who knows? Tony Nese and Josh Woods could be on the radar to face off against the Acclaimed. Yeah, this one was a very odd match. Anna JAS and Ty Mello face off against Sky Blue and Madison Rain, but I'm not gonna go too much into it. Anna JAS and Ty Mello beat Sky Blue and Madison Rain. And then onto the main event of Rampage. It is the AEW Trios World Tag Team title match between Death Triangle and Dark Order. Man, what a match. What a match. Give Dark Order as much crap as you want, but they certainly know how to put on some great matches when they want to. You know what I mean, Marty?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I mean,
Death Triangle. I mean,
poor Pac though, because pretty much immediately after the main event of Rampage, he had to defend the All Atlantic title on Battle of the Belts.
Yeah, of course we'll talk about that, but ultimately he went 2 for 2 as the first match of the night for him. He and his team of Death Triangle beat the Dark Order to retain the World Trios Tag Team titles. So we get on to Battle of the Belts 4, the last Battle of the Belts, as Pac faces off against Trent Beretta, and man, you can definitely tell that Pac was just feeling super fatigued in that whole entire match.
Yeah.
Of course, there was one crazy ass spot through the table there.
Oh yeah.
I feel like that table is like definitely not pre-cut or anything like that. But then again, maybe it was. I don't know. But just the way that like the brain buster to the table, poor Trent. I'm shocked that he is alright. After that, he kind of took the brunt of that shoulders and neck onto the solid.
Well, no, better yet, his ass hit the freaking floor.
Yeah,
His
everything
ass hit
damn
the
near
floor.
hit the floor for Trent Beretta as Pat got a majority of the impact on the table itself,
Yeah,
and
'cause he
actually
got cut
caused
open.
it caused his like shoulder, like right by the shoulder
Yeah.
blade area, to be cut open the hard way itself. And I'm grateful that both men are okay, but ultimately in this
Just goes to show you,
great
man.
back and forth match, Pac retains
Yeah.
the All Atlantic
It just
Championship.
goes to show you, man.
But
Tables can hurt.
yes, they can. But Orange Cassidy comes out and beats him down. We are seeing a very aggressive side out of Orange Cassidy,
Yeah.
and I'm liking it. Ultimately, it did lead to him beating Pac for the All Atlantic Championship in Toronto. Of course, we will talk about that next week's episode of No Final Bell. But congratulations to Orange Cassidy finally getting his first singles title, his first title in general in all Elite Wrestling.
Yeah.
But man,
It's just a bit of a it's a little sad that he wasn't able to be the IWGP US champion when he faced Ospreay at Forbidden Door. But hey, you can't win them all.
true.
So
We get a backstage segment of Jericho, Matt Menard, and Angela Parker. Well, they want Daniel Garcia to come home and want him to continue being a sports entertainer. We truly don't know what's going on with Daniel Garcia. Ultimately, there was a moment, of course, Jericho did retain against Bryan Danielson, but Daniel Garcia hit Bryan Danielson with his own championship belt. What do we even know what Daniel Garcia is doing anymore? Is he with Jericho Appreciation Society? Is he with Black Bull Combat Club? Every single week is something different. Like next week, probably in Cincinnati, he's gonna be like, "Fuck you, Jericho," and freaking hit him with a title. So ultimately, I think Daniel Garcia should just end up being on his own and doing his own thing, separate from the Jericho Appreciation Society and separate from the Black Bull Combat Club. I think that's ultimately what would be the best move for Daniel Garcia to do. As much as I would love to see him either one of them, I just think that him going off and doing his own thing, having him get pushed as a singles competitor would be the best thing possible for Daniel Garcia. I think that, when he was with Matt Menard and Angelo Parker and their little trio there, did some great things, but ultimately Daniel Garcia has shown that pushing him as a singles competitor is not a bad thing because he is one hell of a wrestler. And yes, I said wrestler, not sports entertainer. So, it's ultimately going to be interesting to see if he is actually going to truly join back up with Jericho Appreciation Society. But I think there's a little part of Daniel Garcia that he doesn't want to be with either group at all. So we get on to the next match of the next championship match of the night, the TBS Championship. Jake Cargill faces off against Willow Nightingale, but unfortunately, Jake Cargill beats her again to retain the TBS Championship, but Willow actually runs off, or Nyla Rose actually runs off with her title. Could they face off soon? I would honestly be okay with Jade Cargill and Nyla Rose. And ultimately, I would be okay if Nyla Rose actually gives Jade her first loss.
Yeah, because not for nothing, you need to do something with Nyla.
Because I hate to say it,
been lost in the shuffle ever
Nyla
since
Rose
losing.
and Jade Cargill never faced off against each other before.
Well, that, but
one, and two, Nyla Rose is a former AEW Women's World Champion too.
About to get
so
into.
Ultimately, I think this is the best move to give her another championship and be the first ever, I guess triple. I mean, I can't really say triple crown, but the first ever woman to hold both of the women's championships.
Yeah.
So I think it would be the best move to do. Nothing against Jade Cargill, but I
Of course,
honestly,
all the
I think,
transphobes, though, are
I
going to
really
say
do think that Jade Cargill should get a chance after Tony Storm, after, if she does lose the TBS championship here to Nyla Rose. Ultimately, I really do think that Jade Cargill should get a chance to face off against Tony Storm for the interim AEW Women's World Championship. So we get on to the next thing, backstage moment with Hook. He has the envelope that he got from the Trustbusters and rips it right up there. We thought he was going to join them up, but no, he's still going to be walking alone.
he is still the cold-hearted, handsome devil.
Now, what does this mean? Does this mean that, ultimately him and maybe the man that has rapped his song could team up and
Action
face
Bronson.
off against the Trustbusters? That would be something.
I mean, we don't even know really what Action Bronson's whole. We don't know what's going on with him and his potential career in AEW is, but that would be interesting.
Right. I mean,
So, but it's safe to say that at least for the time being, Hook is not going to be joining the Trustbusters.
no, it does not seem like it. So we get on to our last match of the night and that 2 hour special on Friday as FTR face off against Gates of Agony. It was a right, match, but ultimately FTR beats Gates of Agony to retain the ROH World Tag Team titles, and then the Embassy beat them down after the match. But then Wardlow comes down to even the fight, and then Samoa Joe even surprisingly joins the fight, and this will lead into a trios match, I want to say on Rampage, between Brian Cage and Gates of Agony versus FTR and, well, I think it was actually FTR and Shawn Spears versus Brian Cage and Gates of Agony, which is weird because where the hell did Shawn Spears get out of this with? But I think Warjo was in action in Toronto.
Was in action.
Yeah, they were in action on Dynamite, but on Rampage it will now be it will be.
Well, how could it have
been FTR and
how could it be on Rampage though if Rampage is technically happening tonight? They're taping it tonight. By the time, because today is the 13th, that's when Rampage is being taped.
Right. Well,
so how could it have happened? How could it happen on Rampage? It would have had to have happened on. Well, I think what it was is,
well, the matches got announced for Rampage, and it was that's what was shown itself. So,
okay. I mean, yeah.
But ultimately, I think that this is going to be interesting. I would like to see. It really should have been Ward Joe against the Gates of Agony. It would have made a little bit more sense, but it ultimately just didn't happen like that. But who knows? That is it for AEW talk in a sense for that.
So now we get into the night that was Bound for Glory in Albany.
Yeah, man, what a great great match. What a great night itself.
Great night, great matches all around. There was even a bonus 6-man tag team match that actually was not aired for the countdown or the actual pay-per-view itself, but it was still nice to see for the live crowd, essentially.
But it was also very cool to see Raven getting inducted into the Impact World.
I don't have that on my notes, but yes, he did have his Hall of Fame ceremony, and he did share a lot of great stories of his time in ECW, his time in WWE, WCW, and then ultimately ending with TNA. So,
And then
and also, yes,
he's still
the main takeaway from
yes,
his
he's
Hall of
still a
Fame
very
celebration,
big heel as he DDTs Tommy Dreamer.
they have finally ended that 28-year feud. So, but the main thing to take away from Bound for Glory and the Countdown. For the Countdown, we had Brian Myers defending the Digital Media Championship in an
Yeah,
open challenge. Who was going to answer? That was the big question on everybody's
I
mind.
know. And honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I was not expecting the man coming out when he did
I
at
think he
all.
was the least expected person that showed up.
Yeah, and when we even were talking about it on here, we never would have thought it would have been Dirty Dango.
Yes.
And he dyed his hair and bleached his hair blonde.
Yeah. Yeah, because last time we saw him, at least like in NWA, he still had that that his natural hair color, and then all of a sudden now he's bleached it blonde. Like, okay, but either way, Dirty Dango was the man that stepped up for the open challenge. Unfortunately, he did not get the job done
Yes,
beating Brian
Brian
Myers.
Myers
Brian
retains.
Myers is still the digital media champion. So, yeah, damn that Myers.
Damn that Myers.
But then we get into the main card, and we kicked it off with a bang.
Yeah, what a banger of a match this was. These two men brought the house down in the very first match of the night
For
on
the
Bound
X
for Glory.
Division Championship, Frankie Kazarian from AEW facing Speedball Mike Bailey. Now,
You know, I don't know much about Speedball, but seeing this match, man, made me think like, damn, like
he
I
is
was.
an absolute spectacle to watch
Yes,
live.
he is. He was a great talent. Frankie Kazarian is a hell of a freaking wrestler himself too.
Well, the thing about it too is Speedball threw everything that he had
At Frankie
at Frankie
Kazarian.
Kazarian, but
Frankie Kazarian was still kicking out. Frankie Kazarian is showcasing that if AEW actually pushed him as a singles competitor, they would get something out of him.
Yeah.
And right now, he's doing bigger and better things in Impact than he is in AEW, which I don't understand at all.
Especially when you consider that as a result, the winner and new X Division champion Frankie Kazarian.
Yes, congratulations to Frankie Kazarian 5 times. Now, it makes you wonder, will he cash in option C?
That is the big question.
And face off against Josh Alexander for the World Heavyweight Championship. Now, that would be one hell of a match to see, as both of those men have never faced off against each other at all.
Well, it makes it even...
Impact right now is showcasing that, man, they are getting it right now.
Oh, yeah.
They really are.
And it's interesting, too, because, like, you consider that of all the previous times that Frankie Kazarian has held the X Division Championship, I don't think once he's cashed in option C, because I don't think when he was X Division Champion, option C hadn't even been because I think option C was first introduced during the Hogan and Bischoff regime. So, which I believe the first X Division champion to have that like introduction or whatever of option C was Austin Aries. And then here we are now, and literally a year ago was the last time that an X Division champion invoked option C, and it was Josh Alexander. and he actually won his championship match when he cashed in option C. But regardless, Frankie Kazarian, your new X Division champion. So we go from one banger of a match to another, as we had the last rodeo match between Mickie James and Mia Yim. And if Mia Yim was able to beat Mickie James, that's it.
Yeah, but
there were a lot of
there was
moments
a lot
during
of
the
I was just
during the
gonna
match
say,
where I thought that Mia could have done it.
and
That
these two
Mia,
women definitely brought the house down. With facing off against each other. Mickie James, is just still showcasing that even as she gets older, can still put on some great matches. Mia Yim is one hell of a talent,
yeah,
one that will eventually be the Impact Women's World Champion. But
well,
I don't know about that one, as her contract has now expired.
yeah.
Um,
It's
it makes you
unfortunate for Mia
wonder.
Yim,
It
but
makes you wonder if she's going to join up with her husband and Keith Lee in AEW. I think so.
I'll be very interested to see where Mia Yim ends up.
I think it would be the best move for her. Nothing against WWE, but WWE, I don't think utilized her all that well, even with Triple H taking care of NXT. So I don't know if her going to WWE would be the right move. I think she wants to
Yeah,
be
because
as
I
close
mean,
to Keith Lee as possible. I know
right?
that they're still together and everything
Yeah,
like that. So I'm pretty sure they're married, right?
yes, they are married.
So yeah, why not join up with her husband and go to AEW with a very everlasting, expanding AEW Women's Division that I think ultimately would be the best move for her, because I think
Yeah.
that she would be utilized very well.
Well, not to mention, you know, even when she was in NXT, like they never had her challenge for the NXT Women's Championship once. So, yeah, if you ask me, I think AEW would be a better fit for her. But either way, so getting back into the match, yeah, Mickie James, she's still going. She's still going.
Yep, as she beats
She
Mia
beats Mia
Yim.
Yim in that last rodeo match. And so we go from one knockouts match to another, although this one is a knockouts tag team match for the knockouts tag team titles.
Mm-hmm.
The Death Dolls, that is the new tag team name of Taya Valkyrie and Jessica, versus Vexed, the reigning knockouts tag team champions. Will Vexed be able to overcome? No.
No, surprisingly not.
No.
Jessica and Taya Valkyrie
They were able to get that tag team
chemistry going.
cohesion. Yeah. Which we've been questioning whether or not Jessica, in a sense, had that killer instinct in her, that fire to overcome the odds and actually pick up a victory, and she got it done at Bound for Glory with Taya. So Death Dolls beat Vexed to become the new Knockout Tag Team Champions.
And as they should.
From one tag team match to another, we have the men's tag team titles on
I
the
was
line.
not okay with OGK winning here. It has to be these boys right here,
Yeah.
the Motor City Machine Guns. It would have made the most sense to have them beat.
Yeah, so the way that they won too is like what is not okay with me. OGK had their feet on the bottom on the ropes to win. So
yeah, it was some dirty tactics. I hope Scott D'Amore is going
I was in the
to.
I was in the crowd just watching on. I'm like, ref, what are you doing?
So,
So
I hope Scott D'Amore is going to roll back the tape and be like, no, you guys shouldn't have won it whatsoever. We're going to have a rematch between you, both of you, and this time it's going to be a no disqualification match. Honestly, I would be okay with something like that. I think Scott D'Amore should do something, between these two men, these two tag teams. I think that the Machine Guns should the Motor City Machine Guns should get another opportunity at the World Tag Team titles, and I think they were rightfully wronged in this match in Bound for Glory in Albany, and I think that they should be the tag team champions right now.
They need one last run with them, man.
Yes, they
do. Don't let 2020 be the Machine Guns' last run with the Impact tag team titles. So next up, we had the Call Your Shot Gauntlet, and we had a lot of surprises. Show up. So, first of all, let's get the obvious one out of the way. I believed, but no amount of believing was able to help. Poor Joe Hendry. I believed.
Yeah.
I believed, man.
We had Rhino,
Tommy Dreamer, Johnny Swinger, and shockingly enough, Bully Ray.
Yeah. Bully Ray.
There was an ECW reunion between those four men.
And you heard the crowds chanting ECW, and we were chanting as well, too.
As soon as those four were there, I was like, oh, you gotta do an ECW chant, man. You have to. So, granted.
And actually, we got to see Swinger go up stage, and I kind of do this, and he acknowledged it itself, so that was a cool moment itself. But ultimately, if you told me that Bully Ray was going to win it all, I probably would have slapped you in the face and called you a liar. I really do think it should have been Sami Callihan. I didn't even. I could have swore I did not hear.
Now that you mentioned it, and now that it was those guys in the hoods that eliminated him.
Oh, okay.
Because he was on the apron with, I believe, Eric Young. He was about to pile drive him on the apron to possibly eliminate Eric Young, and then the guys in the hoods, punched him and basically pushed him down, therefore eliminating him.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I don't ever recall hearing Sami Callihan's name being one of the names that got eliminated, but maybe I wasn't paying attention enough to see Sami.
I don't think David Penzer actually announced that elimination, but yes.
That's why I say that I think Sami Callihan should have been able
Sami Callihan got screwed.
He got screwed. He should have been able to come back and possibly face off against Bully Ray for, the...
But, see, with the final two, it should have been Macklin.
Yeah, it probably should have been, but you know what? It's all right.
Congratulations to Bully Ray. He now has the Call Your Shot trophy. He can call his shot anytime, anywhere, for any title. But we'll get into that as we get into the co-main event, if you will, for the Knockouts World title, Jordynne Grace versus Masha Slamovich. And
man, what a great back and forth match between Jordynne Grace and Masha Slamovich itself. These two women brought the fucking house down before Josh Alexander and Eddie Edwards did. And man, what I tell you, there was definitely some moments where, Masha, you never... is she human? Is she not? She just won't go down whatsoever.
See, that's the thing, too, is I for sure thought if anybody was going to beat Jordynne Grace for the Knockouts World title, it was going to be Masha. And especially with how they've been building her up, it's you got to give the Knockouts World title to Masha Slamovich. But no, they did not give Masha Slamovich the Knockouts World title. So, Jordynne Grace was able to retain. She overcame those incredibly massive odds against Masha Slamovich to retain. So,
yeah, good for her.
Now comes the big question of how much longer do we think Jordynne Grace is going to hold on to the Knockout Championship, and at this point, who could potentially take it? You know,
Who
the only thing
really
I can
knows?
think of, is if they really build her up, Savannah Evans, possibly. You know, like I said, if they really build her up, I feel like they could. But yes, now it's time for the main event: Josh Alexander versus Eddie Edwards for the Impact World Championship. All of the matches on the card were enough to make me think like, okay, maybe we'll have more title changes than just what we had. But either way, very hard hitting between the two men. We had a showcase of Japanese strong style, in a sense, versus Canadian strong style, with Josh Alexander's style being Canadian strong style and Eddie Edwards' style being more of the Japanese strong style, as Eddie Edwards did train with uh, Japanese legends in Pro Wrestling Noah. So, and oh my god, I can tell you right now from being in the crowd for that show, Eddie Edwards will chop the
Oh yeah,
absolute shit out of you
I
and
mean,
not have any remorse.
no,
Like,
he will not.
every single time that Josh Alexander was getting chopped by Eddie Edwards, I just cringed every single time, because it's like, man, I know how hard a chop to the chest hurts you. And especially when you get chopped that hard by somebody, like, it's gonna take the freaking life out of you. So, but ultimately, um, Josh Alexander was able to beat Eddie Edwards to retain. And then after the match, Honor No More beat down Josh Alexander, which then brought out Heath and Rich Swann, but it prompted Bully Ray to come out. And you saw that Honor No More were standing tall. Next thing you know, Bully Ray's music hits, and you're like, are we about to see Bully Ray cash in his are we about to see Bully Ray call his shot? Are we about to see Bully Ray uh, put that trophy on the line on a defeated Josh Alexander? But nope. Bully Ray swerved us all. He starts beating down the rest of Honor No More, and he helps Josh Alexander take them out. But then afterwards, he
Honestly, I
holds up the world title and tells Josh Alexander he's going to have to step his game up, which is very true.
ultimately, like Josh Alexander and Eddie Edwards definitely had a great match in itself. They took it to outside. They had it
Oh yeah,
inside. They beat the living shit out of each other.
they
Chops,
were going all
suplex
over.
onto the ramp
Yeah,
itself. You could, like, we were super close. We could hear the freaking thud on that. We could hear um you know um Bully Ray and Josh Alexander, talking crap to
yeah,
each other, talking to each other, and stuff like that. We could just hear all the action itself. It got very, back and forth between Eddie Edwards and Josh Alexander, where we thought maybe there was a glimpse of hope for Eddie Edwards, but ultimately Josh Alexander, with all the amount of pain he went through, just got it done, beat the living crap out of Eddie Edwards in that match, retained the Impact World Championship, and possibly will face off against Bully Ray whenever. I mean, it could be literally tomorrow. It could be it could be any kind of day he chooses. That he could just end up being like MGF and just put it on the line whenever he chooses to. It's one way ticket to getting an opportunity, and who knows, you know, Frankie Kazarian could be knocking on the door too and saying, "Hey, I want to put up my, you know, X Division Championship on the line and getting a shot after that World Heavyweight Championship. So who really knows what's going to be there? If I'm Josh Alexander, I would be looking all around me, forward, side, back,
Right.
have eyes all around you because you have a big target on your back being the world champion right now, and Frankie Kazarian or Bully Ray could literally be right within footsteps
Yeah.
there to being the next Impact World Champion.
Well, see, now, my question is, with Frankie Kazarian now being the X Division champion, could we see Frankie bring the X Division championship to AEW and start defending it on AEW like programming?
I don't know. I just don't think that Tony Khan's got really much plans for Frankie Kazarian, so I think Frankie Kazarian is going to be more involved with Impact than he will be with AEW.
It's possible.
The Heavy Metal Rebel has not really been seeing much of AEW TV
Yeah.
television time, so who really knows?
But hey, who's to say that Frankie Kazarian has like a match on in AEW or like whatever, and then out of the blue, Speedball comes out and is like, "Hey, you got to give me, hey, give me a rematch." So, I mean, there's a lot of potential avenues that they could go with the X Division Championship, and like just where where plans lie essentially with the X Division Championship and with Frankie Kazarian ultimately. But needless to say, there's a lot that can be done with Frankie Kazarian and just in general.
Right.
So we'll have to wait and see like what Impact has planned going forward with the fallout from Bound for Glory.
I was just gonna say, yeah, we'll have to definitely keep a watchful eye on it. Um, yeah, it was a little bit long of an episode, but we definitely had a lot to discuss here. Make sure that'll conclude this episode of No Final Bell. Make sure to follow us down below on social media at Tinkle Sports. As always, you want to make sure to check out our channel on Tinkle Sports and Entertainment. And also watch all of our other shows as we have Out of Turn 4 every Tuesday at 5. Of course, the season is almost over with as they're into the playoffs in the championship series. And also, you want to make sure to check out Sunday Morning Tinkle every Sunday at 9 a.m. As always, everyone, we will catch you in the next video. Have a great rest of your day.